I with Brian 7 years ago, and my name is Amy. At first, I believed that our aspirations were same. We relocated to my stunning apartment on the 104th level of a skyscraper, which has a view that never fails to astound me. My career was booming as I oversaw the financial department at a trading firm. Lauren, Brian's mom, lived close by and dropped over frequently. She made it plain early on that she disapproved of my career-oriented way of life. "A woman's place is at home," she would say with a sour glare. "You should be taking care of your husband, not running off to work every day." Lauren kept going on and on about the qualities a good wife should have, but I did my best to remain calm by smiling and nodding along. I was irritated on the inside, though. I had always been upfront with Brian about my desire to advance professionally before starting a family, and he had always supported my decision. But I could see him gradually changing his viewpoint over time, probably influenced by his mom. Brian and Lauren were having a quiet conversation at our dining table one evening when I returned home from a long day at the office. I felt uneasy since they halted the moment I went in. "Squeezing out a nervous Amy?" Brian spoke. "We need to talk." I set my suitcase down and took a seat, my nerves shaking. First, Lauren had a word. "Amy, our hearts are heavy with concern for you. This labor is bad for you. Your spouse and home are being disregarded by you. At what point in time will you consider starting a family?" In an effort to maintain composure, I inhaled deeply. Brian, Lauren, and I had previously discussed this. We have decided to prioritize our jobs before considering establishing a family. In his chair, Brian shuffled uncomfortably. "Perhaps, Amy, it's time to reevaluate. Mom was correct. We aren't growing any younger. Every night, I am bored of eating takeaway since the place is so untidy." What I was hearing was unbelievable. "Are you kidding me, Brian? We discussed this earlier. You have no idea how much I value my job. More important than your family." Lauren intervened abruptly. My chair made a loud, scratching sound as I got to my feet. "Working here allows me to provide a future for my family and myself. Brian, I thought you got it?" I retreated to our bedroom and secured the door afterward. My gaze was fixed upwards as I reclined on the bed. I had no clue how accurate my suspicion that this was only the beginning of my troubles was, but it persisted nonetheless. Before Brian even woke up the following morning, I departed for work. By making a solemn vow to myself on the elevator, I resolved that not even Brian would be able to derail my progress toward my objectives. Too much effort had gone into getting here, and I was not going to give up now. I was so intent on proving myself that I came to the office earlier than normal and stayed late into the night. Everyone took note of my efforts. My secretary buzzed in a few hours after that. "Mrs. Alexander, the president, would like to see you in his office." Making my way to the top floor, my heart was racing. As president of our company, Mr. Timothy was renowned for his astute business acumen and knack for shocking staff. "Amy, come in," he said as I rapped on his door. "Have a seat." With both fists clenched in my lap, I settled against the leather chair's edge. "I've been keeping a close eye on your work," Mr. Timothy started, his expression making no sense, "and I must say I'm impressed." Unaware that I had been holding my breath, I released it. "Thank you, sir." His gaze was intense as he leaned forward. "We're combining with a big corporation in another city, therefore we're growing, Amy. Our top talent must be involved in this massive transition." Something accelerated my heart rate. Did this point to what I anticipated? "I'm thinking about promoting you to the position of department head," he went on to say. "However, Amy, I will not deceive you. It will not be easy. More effort than ever before is going to be required of you. Could you handle it?" Brian and Lauren's expectations of me were on my mind. Then I remembered the many nights I'd stayed up to work and the satisfaction I'd had upon a project's completion. A strong "absolutely, sir," came out of my mouth. "It's on. I will not disappoint you." It was as if I were weightless when I walked out of Mr. Timothy's office. I have spent years striving for this. When I was ready, I told Brian. I was certain that he would comprehend the significance of my career to me once he witnessed my progress. I stopped at our go-to spot on the way home and got Brian's favorite food. I purchased a dozen roses and a bottle of champagne. Because of its merit, I wished to make it an occasion to remember. As I unlocked the door to our flat, I juggled the luggage. "Brian?" I raised my voice. "I'm home and I've got a surprise." In the living area, I discovered Brian splayed on the couch, the TV blazing. As I entered, he hardly raised an eyebrow. My enthusiasm was over the roof as I said, "Brian, you won't believe what happened today. I've been promoted. I'll be assuming the role of department leader." "Wow, isn't that incredible?" Brian shifted to face me as he switched off the TV, but his expression betrayed him. "So, you'll be working even more now, huh?" A small grin crept onto my face. "Indeed, but consider the implications for our situation. We can now build our future, take frequent vacations, and buy that large house we've been discussing." Brian sprang to his feet swiftly. "A bright future. What lies ahead, Amy? As it is, you're never truly at home. When was the most recent occasion that we shared a meal? When was the last time we actually spoke?" My eyes landed on the food bags I had brought. I brought dinner for that very reason. I was hoping we could have a party. "Celebrate what?" he demanded, his voice trembling. "Should we rejoice that you prioritized your career over our marriage? Why don't we rejoice over the fact that I wed a man who values his career over family?" My eyes welled up with tears. As I muttered, I expressed my hope that you would be pleased for me. His expression softened for an instant before returning to its rigid state. "This is too much for me, Amy. We need to make a change." Slamming the door behind him, he stormed out to his office. I felt more alone than ever as I stood in the center of the living room, around by the celebratory items I had purchased. Was this the cost of success? I thought to myself as I set the food aside and poured a glass of champagne. Should it be, would I be able to afford to pay it? I left the office with a concept a few days later. People that can cook and clean would be hired by me. That would put an end to Brian's gripes regarding the disarray and absence of homemade meals. I made the necessary preparations, filled with optimism. When I returned home 5 weeks later, the flat was immaculate, and the aroma of a freshly prepared dinner wafted through the air. Brian would be happy, I thought, so I grinned. I detected the opening and closing of the entrance door. "Brian?" I raised my voice. "I'm home and dinner's ready." Entering the spotless kitchen, he took stock of his surroundings. "What's all this?" I'd proudly hired a housekeeper. I'd boasted. "She cleans and cooks for us." Hiring a maid seems like it would be a win-win situation. However, Brian's expression turned gloomy rather than grateful. "I take it this won't work for you. Get somebody person to handle it instead of you." "That's unfair," I said. "I'm trying to find a balance." "Balance?" Brian let out a sour laugh. "Is that the title you give to this? I want to know, Amy, if you've found someone to take your position in the kitchen, would you also find someone to sleep with us?" The impact was as sharp as a slap. "How dare you?" I whispered. "I've done nothing but try to make our life better, and this is how you react." Brian took a step back. "Let me go out. Cut to the chase." I found myself in the immaculate kitchen, all by myself, while the unfinished supper sat there, about to grow cold, as the door banged shut behind him. Brian and I seldom exchanged words for the subsequent 3 days. I dove headfirst into my work, my mind set on the impending merger. My personal life was a complete disaster, but dealing with financial reports and spreadsheets was a breeze. I finally mustered up the courage to try on a rare Saturday when I was exempt from work. In honor of our most recent anniversary, I wore the dress Brian had given me and spent the morning preparing his favorite meals. We also set the table with our most cherished dishes. Brian returned home, and I smiled and waved to him. I was hoping we could enjoy a pleasant evening dining together, I added, attempting to maintain an upbeat rapport. Just the two of us. After a brief exchange of glances, Brian discreetly nodded in agreement. A new beginning, I thought with a surge of joy, could be just what we needed. The doorbell sounded as I was preparing to bring out the appetizer. I proceeded to respond to it, my mind jumbled. As she stood in the corridor, Lauren was there. "Lauren," I said, taken aback, "we weren't expecting you." She pushed past me into the apartment and said, "Oh, I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd drop by." "Brian, darling, there you are." My romantic supper for two quickly became a family reunion, and I felt powerless as I watched. Lauren subtly brought up my housekeeping skills and my lack of maternal instincts as she took charge of the conversation. "You know," she continued as she poured herself another glass of wine, "back in my day, a woman knew her place was in the home. Caring for our husbands and children was something we were really proud of." Quickly, I got to my feet. "It seems like dessert might be in order," I remarked as I bolted toward the kitchen. Despite my best efforts to collect myself, I could still make out Lauren's voice in the kitchen. "Brian, my darling, you must speak logic to her. Family comes foremost in a woman's life. The rest is secondary." Refraining from sobbing, I shut my eyes. My dreams had been shattered by this reality. Even though I had a prosperous job and a lovely house, I began to question how much it had cost me. I started to question if I had made a major error somewhere as I listened to Lauren's incessant babble about conventional family ideals. I remember getting home from a conference one night later than normal. Because I couldn't stop thinking about it, I unfroze when I pried open the door. Little socks, a tiny pair of shoes, and tiny onesies lay all over the living room floor. "Brian, help!" I cried out, my voice quivering. "What's all this?" He emerged from the bedroom sporting an unusual expression. "My mom brought those over, you know. She reasoned that they could set the mood for you." My hands quivered as I reluctantly took up a small T-shirt. "In the mood for what exactly?" "Yes, of course," Brian remarked as if it were second nature. "Our youth is dwindling, Amy. We need to give having a family some serious consideration." As the sun went down that night, my thoughts raced and I quietly folded the baby clothes. Had I been self-centered? Was my marriage collapsing due to my ambition? A high chair in the kitchen, a baby book by my bedside, and a rattle on the coffee table were among the many baby necessities that I discovered scattered about the apartment when I awoke the following morning. Lauren would have approved of this. It seemed as if the apartment was gradually becoming a nursery regardless of my wishes, and no matter how much I attempted to disregard them, new things kept popping up. Upon my return home one evening, I saw Lauren perusing a parenting magazine while seated on our couch. I said, "Lauren," my annoyance clearly visible, "I didn't know you were coming over." She grinned sweetly as she glanced upward. "My darling Amy, I pray this does not annoy you. He told me I could wait for him here, Brian. He merely went grocery shopping." I walked sternly to my bedroom to change. Lauren was gazing out at the city skyline by the window when I returned. "You know, Amy," she said, her gaze fixed on the window, "a view like this is wasted on just two people. Just picture a young kid coming up to this window, giggling and pressing his or her little hands against it." Headaches began to develop. "Lauren, I appreciate your concern, but Brian and I will decide when we're ready for children." With fixated eyes, she pivoted to confront me. "Amy, when exactly will that be?" "After you've put in all the hours and are ready to die." "When will it be too late?" Brian strode in, laden with shopping bags, and I was about to reply when he suddenly sauntered over. He sensed the tension and glanced between us. "Is everything all right here?" he inquired with great care. Suddenly, Lauren's tone shifted. "No worries at all, my love. Amy and I were simply having a casual conversation about family planning." "Wow!" Brian exclaimed. "Then what?" "Well done." "Amy, I knew you'd budge," Brian remarked. Encircled and outnumbered, I felt suffocated. I jumped up from the apartment, grabbed my coat, and mumbled something about needing some air. I returned home from a long day a few weeks later, completely drained. When I looked up, I was taken aback. Lauren, dressed in her fluffy pink pajamas, was pacing the living room. "What's going on here?" I spoke more loudly and demandingly. With an air of defiance, Brian emerged from the kitchen. "My mother is moving in with us. You seem to be constantly on the go. Being alone is getting to me." What I was hearing was unbelievable. "You decided this without even talking to me? When are you ever here to talk about anything?" In a flash, Brian reacted. Lauren was smiling smugly as she watched us, so I glanced over at her. "Lauren, you must leave this place. Here I call home." An expression of desperation crossed Brian's face. "If you're not happy with this arrangement, you can leave." The impact was as sharp as a slap. "Pardon me. Prior to our marriage, I purchased this apartment. You can't force me to leave my own home because it's in my name." With her enraged expression contorted, Lauren rose to her feet and advanced toward me. "Now, listen here, you ungrateful." Then I raised my hand. "Lauren, please don't get any closer. If you physically harm me, I will report it to the authorities." With a dramatic gripping of her chest, Lauren fell into the sofa. "Is it anything you overheard, Brian? Imagine that, your own wife threatening your mother by threatening to call the cops on me. She has become emotionally cold as a result of her dreadful job." Brian hurried over to be by her side, and he gave me an angry look. "What gives, Amy? Regarding your own mother-in-law." It was becoming too much for me. I strode mutely to the guest room, locked the door behind me, and then disappeared. My thoughts raced with the ridiculousness of it all as I lay there that night, unable to sleep. My phone went off the following morning. "Greetings from my boss, Mr. Timothy." "Amy, I need you on a plane today," stated the man. "We're ready to move forward with the merger, and I need you in Orlando ASAP." My baggage was filled to the brim in record time. Standing there with expressionless faces, Brian and Lauren blocked my path to the door. The words "I have to go on a business trip" came out of my mouth quietly. "The merger is what it's for. Stay tuned for my return." Unease twisted Brian's lip. "Don't bother coming back at all. It was all a haze on the way to Orlando. Thanks to the diversion." I dove headfirst into my work. I was completely absorbed in the merger negotiations. In those times of stillness, though, thoughts of the devastation I had caused kept popping into my head. The gravity of my predicament struck me while I was alone in my hotel room. I get home after a long week of stressful meetings and late nights. With my bag slung over my shoulders, I stood outside my apartment door, a mixture of weariness and optimism coursing through me. I just wanted to get into bed and forget about the world for a bit. Even after inserting my key, the lock remained unresponsive. Attempting once more, I scowled. Under no circumstances. Realizing what had to have transpired sent a chill down my spine. My heart was racing when I rapped on the door. Brian and Lauren, dressed casually, remained there after a minute, staring at me with smug faces as the door finally opened. Why isn't my key working?" I whispered the question. Brian roared with laughter. "I changed the locks," he added, his expression icy. "You can come in if you're ready to choose your family over your precious career." Perplexed, I fixed my gaze on him. "What are you talking about?" Brian retrieved some paperwork from his pocket. He extended them to me in a theatrical gesture. "Divorce papers," he murmured. "It's time to make a decision. Amy, your home life or your job. What will it be?" Something monumental occurred to me as I stared at Brian, fully engaged with him. His love had faded from my heart. This strange, manipulative, and spiteful guy had supplanted the man I had married. Those ideas were shattered by Lauren's piercing voice. "Sure thing. Please be patient. Decide what you want." Standing tall, I inhaled deeply. I maintained a calm voice and explained, "I choose my career because I don't have a family or a husband. Not anymore." Brian pushed a pen in my face despite his enraged expression. In the corridor, I calmly signed the divorce paperwork. Lauren snatched my arm the second I was through speaking and shoved me forcefully toward the elevator. She spat out, "Good riddance," and slammed the door shut behind me. My eyes lingered on the locked door of the house that had been my refuge. Inside of me, a peculiar, somewhat crazy laugh surfaced. The condo I had purchased with my own money was recently forcibly removed from my possession. I gathered my belongings and headed to a neighboring hotel because I was too exhausted to cause a fuss. My buddy Lily, who was my realtor during the condo purchase, called me a few hours later. "Amy, honey, how are you doing?" Lily seemed worried as she inquired. "I've been doing better," I responded. "Why do you ask?" Lily was hesitant. "I'm familiar with Brian via his social media posts. He's stating some quite unflattering things about you." I felt sick to my stomach. "What kind of things?" "He claims that you abandoned your family for your profession and is now labeling you a cold-hearted career woman. He claims he gave his life for you, but you treated him like a tool and then dumped him. You may even face an alimony lawsuit from him. Amy, it seems like a lot of people are feeling sorry for him." Anger welled up inside of me. "That's not what happened at all." "I didn't think so," Lily remarked. "Do you want to tell me your side?" A brief rundown of the events of the previous week was what I offered her. Lily was quiet for a while after I finished speaking. "Oh, Amy," she murmured eventually, "truly empathize with what you're going through. Pay attention, I'm going to clarify things with our coworkers and friends. The reality must be known by all." With a knot in my throat, I managed to utter, "Thanks, Lily. I really appreciate that." Anger at Brian's lies, appreciation for Lily's encouragement, and a rising resolve were the emotions I had after we ended the call. Even though Brian had temporarily taken possession of my home, I would not allow him to desecrate my honor or reputation. At that very moment, I saw Mr. Timothy's name on my buzzing phone. I felt sick to my stomach. Answering, I drew a deep breath. "Amy, we really must have a conversation," Mr. Timothy stated with an uncharacteristically grave tone. "I've seen some concerning things on social media." With my eyes closed, I prepared myself. "Sir, I can explain." "Amy, there's no need for me to explain," he blurted out. "I want to hear your side of the story." A wave of relief engulfed me. I inhaled deeply and explained to him everything. The fights, Lauren moving in, getting locked out of my own flat, and Brian's internet slander campaign. There was a considerable delay on the opposite end after I concluded. Next thing I knew, Mr. Timothy let out a startled laugh. "Amy, do you really think I'd believe that nonsense your ex is posting?" replied he. "Listen, I am familiar with you. Your commitment and work ethic have been evident to me. Keep your self-assurance intact. Rest assured, the company fully supports your right to defend oneself." I was so relieved that I started crying. "Yours truly, sir. That means the world to me. You have no idea." After a few days, I received a notification on my phone from a social media platform. My apartment was the site of Brian's live show. Inquisitive, I touched the video. A video team was following after Brian as he grinned at the camera. "Hey, everyone," he exclaimed with enthusiasm. "Important news. We're going to be starting a huge apartment remodel soon. The staff is scheduled to arrive in 2 weeks to completely revamp this space." A strategy began to take shape in my head as I fixed my gaze on the screen. I felt composed and resolute rather than furious. I contacted Lily by dialing her number. "Hi, Amy. I am in dire need of a substantial favor," I exclaimed the moment she rang us. "I need you to sell my apartment fast, like within 2 weeks." Lily whistled softly. "Amy, it is an ambitious request. Why the haste?" I outlined Brian's renovation plans in no time at all. "I need new owners in there before the film crew arrives." "How am I going to present the place, though, Amy?" I thought Brian had replaced the locks right. I forwarded her the most recent images I had of the location. "These shall suffice." "Well, I'm well aware that it's far from flawless." With a giggle, Lily interrupted me. "I am not to be underestimated, my darling. I know a couple who have been searching for a spot like this nearby. My opinion is trusted by them. Based on these photographs and the building's repute, I believe I can pull this off." The weeks passed quickly due to the high volume of work and excitement. The big reveal day of the renovations came and went before I knew it. With my laptop open and my breath held, I eagerly watched a live stream from the comfort of my hotel room. My old apartment, which is now teeming with a film team and construction workers, was shot from above. Standing tall and proud, Brian and Lauren took center stage. "We're absolutely thrilled to begin this renovation," Brian exclaimed, his arm encircling Lauren. "It's time for a fresh start, a new chapter in our lives." A disturbance occurred off-camera right as the MC was ready to give the go-ahead to begin demolition. A well-dressed pair and a recognizable face, Lily, stepped through the swung-open door. "Apologies, but this apartment cannot be renovated," the man stated, gesturing towards a stack of documents. "It belongs to us now." As rumors began to circulate, the camera panned. Brian's expression changed from bewilderment to wrath. "I don't understand what you're saying. My house is here." With a composed yet assertive tone, Lily advanced. "Actually, Brian, Amy, your ex-wife, was the rightful owner of this apartment. These sweethearts bought it from her 4 weeks ago. The renovation documents bear your signature, however it is a counterfeit." Looking enraged, the host of the show turned to Brian. "You faked paperwork, huh? How much difficulty have you caused?" As the MC reprimanded Brian and Lauren live on air, their faces became a vibrant shade of red. As Brian's deceit fell apart around him, millions of people watched the story develop live. Feeling a combination of relief and contentment, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. And then it was over. I took a risk with the apartment sale proceeds. In the city where our company's merger had recently taken place, I purchased a lovely, modest house. It felt like a symbolic new beginning at the same location where my career was taking off. I was pleasantly surprised when Mr. Timothy made me head of the company we had just acquired. It was an enormous task, but I was up to the task. Brian and I crossed paths once more a few weeks later, this time in a courtroom. His audacity was on full display when he demanded alimony and half of the proceeds from the apartment sale. Pleasurously, I observed as the court rejected his arguments, pointing to his efforts to seize my possessions and the falsified paperwork. Brian, whose former self-assurance had been supplanted by a desperate need, came up to me as we departed from the courts. "Amy, please," he pleaded, "please accept my deepest apologies. Why don't we begin anew? Could you please reconsider our marriage?" As I locked eyes with him, a profound sense of liberation washed over me. I felt neither anger nor grief. I let out a soft, farewell laugh. "No, Brian," I firmly stated while clenching my jaw. "No, we can't begin over. What I'm doing, though, is beginning anew." Leaving, I experienced a weightlessness I hadn't felt in a long time. I had a lovely new house that was really mine. My career was taking off, and I was well respected by my colleagues and bosses as the leader of a successful merger.
Hi, I'm Patricia, a 28-year-old marketing exec, and I've got a story that might hit close to home for some of you. It all started on a sunny Saturday at the annual William Advertising Company picnic. You'd think it'd be a time to unwind, right? Wrong. There I was, watching my dad, David William, the big shot CEO, fawning over John, the company's shiny new hire. John, my boy, that presentation you gave last week was outstanding. You've got a real future here, Dad boomed, clapping John on the back. I rolled my eyes so hard I nearly saw my brain. John had been here for 5 minutes? Meanwhile, I just secured the Pearson account, a major win, but apparently that wasn't worth a mention. Thanks, Mr. William, John said, soaking up the praise like a sponge. I clenched my teeth, vowing to prove my worth. Little did I know, this moment was just the beginning of something much bigger, something that would change everything. For now, though, I had a picnic to survive and a father to impress. Wish me luck. Something told me I'd need it. After that disaster of a picnic, I threw myself into work like never before. I landed a massive project, rebranding for a major tech company. If this didn't impress Dad, nothing would. I was knee-deep in spreadsheets when my assistant Tom knocked on my office door. Hey, Patricia, got those reports you asked for? John's team just sent them over. Thanks, Tom. I'll take a look. As I flipped through the reports, something felt off. The projections looked too good to be true. Pulling up old data for comparison, I froze. No, this couldn't be right. I dug deeper, cross-referencing everything. It wasn't just one report, it was a trail of falsified data and plagiarized ideas. John had been conning everyone. Fuming, I marched toward my dad's office only to pause when I heard voices. The door was slightly ajar and curiosity got the better of me. David, we need to talk about John, Linda, Dad's longtime colleague and John's mother, said, her tone tense. What about him? He's doing great work, Dad replied. That's not what I mean. He's asking questions about his father. A long pause followed and my stomach dropped. No way, Dad muttered. David, we agreed never to tell him, Linda said. I know, but he's not stupid. He's noticing how you treat him compared to Patricia. People are talking. My head spun. John, my half-brother. It explained so much, but God, it hurt. We can't let this get out, Dad said. Think of the scandal. Think of Elena. That was it. I stumbled back to my office, struggling to process everything. My whole life felt like a lie. I needed answers. Grabbing my phone, I called my mom. Hey, sweetie, everything okay? Mom, I need to see you. Can you come over? An hour later, we sat in my living room. Mom's face was etched with worry. Patricia, what's wrong? You're scaring me. I took a deep breath. Mom, I know about Dad and Linda. I know about John. Her face paled. Oh, Patricia, is it true? Is John my half-brother? Tears welled in her eyes as she nodded. I'm so sorry, honey. We never wanted you to find out like this. How long have you known? Since John was born. Your father, he made a mistake, but we decided to work through it, for your sake. Anger and hurt boiled over. For my sake. Do you even know how Dad's treated me all these years? Always comparing me to John, like I'm never good enough. I've tried to talk to him, Patricia, but what, Mom? You just let it happen. Let him favor his secret son over me. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. Please, Patricia, you can't tell anyone about this. It would ruin our family. The company. Ruin our family? Newsflash, Mom. It's already ruined. It has been for years. I stood up, pacing. And what about John's fraud? Yeah, I found out about that too. He's been falsifying reports and stealing ideas. Are we supposed to keep that quiet too? Mom looked shocked. Are you sure? Dead sure. I've got proof. She buried her face in her hands. Oh God. David can't know you know. They'll think you're just trying to discredit John out of jealousy. Jealousy? He's a fraud, Mom. He's hurting the company. Please, Patricia, give me some time. Let me talk to your father. We can figure this out without exposing everything. Fine, I said through gritted teeth. You've got 1 week, Mom. After that, I'm going to the board with what I know about John's work. The family stuff. I'll keep quiet about that for now. Mom exhaled in relief, but I wasn't done. I want you to know something. I'm done trying to impress Dad. I'm done comparing myself to John. From now on, I'm doing this for me. The week Mom asked for flew by, and I was no closer to figuring out my next move. Sitting on the information felt wrong, but exposing John meant risking everything. My career, my family's reputation, and the company's future. I needed backup. I called Susan and Mike, colleagues I trusted implicitly, and arranged to meet them at a cafe far from the office. "Okay, Patricia, what's with the cloak and dagger routine?" Susan asked as we settled into a corner booth. "Yeah, you're starting to freak us out," Mike added. I took a deep breath. "I've uncovered serious fraud at the company. John's been falsifying reports and stealing ideas." Their jaws dropped. Mike leaned in, his voice low. "Are you sure? That's a heavy accusation." "I'm sure. I've got proof, plenty of it. But there's more. Personal stuff I can't get into. Let's just say exposing John could blow up in all our faces." Susan narrowed her eyes. "What aren't you telling us, Patricia? Trust me, it's better if you don't know. But I need your help to build an airtight case, one that focuses solely on his professional misconduct." Mike nodded slowly. "I'm in. What do you need?" For the next week, we worked tirelessly, gathering evidence and triple-checking every detail. The tension at work was unbearable. Dad was on the warpath, suspicious and snappish. "Patricia, why aren't the Johnson reports on my desk?" he barked one morning. "I'm still reviewing them, Dad. There are some discrepancies." "Discrepancies? John's team handled those." "Are you saying he made a mistake?" I bit my tongue. "I'm just being thorough." He scoffed. "Be thorough faster. We can't all coast on our laurels." John wasn't faring much better. His confidence had evaporated, replaced by furtive glances and venomous glares in my direction. Late one night, I was grabbing coffee in the break room when Linda cornered me. "I hope you know what you're doing, Patricia. Some secrets are better left buried." I turned to face her. "I'm just doing my job, Linda. Maybe you should have taught John to do the same." Her eyes flashed. "You have no idea what you're messing with. Back off while you still can." "Is that a threat?" She smiled, cold and calculated, before walking away. Later that night, I received an anonymous email. My hands trembled as I opened the attachment. Financial records exposing years of Dad's shady business dealings. This wasn't just about John anymore. The entire company was built on lies. I stared at my screen, feeling sick. This was bigger than I ever imagined. There was no going back now. The truth was coming out, one way or another. The investigation felt like it dragged on for an eternity, though it was only a few weeks. The tension in the office was suffocating. Dad avoided me entirely. John was a nervous wreck. And Linda? If looks could kill, I'd have been 6 feet under. Finally, the board called for a company-wide meeting. My palms were clammy as we filed into the conference room. The head of the board began, his voice steady but grave. "After a thorough investigation, we've uncovered significant misconduct. Effective immediately, John William is terminated." A collective gasp rippled through the room. John shot to his feet, face red with fury. "This is bull." "Sit down, Mr. William," the board member snapped. "We're not finished." The room fell silent. In light of the extent of the fraud and the apparent lack of oversight, we are also calling for a vote of no confidence in David Williams' leadership. Dad's face went pale as the words sank in. He turned to me, his eyes a mix of anger and betrayal. I couldn't meet his gaze. "Furthermore," the board member continued, "we'd like to appoint Patricia William as interim CEO. Her integrity in bringing this matter to our attention, along with her proven track record, makes her the ideal candidate to lead us through this transition." My head spun. CEO? Me? This wasn't what I wanted, was it? The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Dad cleared out his office, John disappeared without a word, and suddenly I was left to pick up the pieces of a shattered company. One evening, as I was working late, again, there was a knock at my office door. I looked up to see Dad standing there, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. "Patricia, can we talk?" I nodded, bracing myself. I owe you an apology," he began, his voice thick with emotion. "I've made so many mistakes. The affair with Linda, the way I treated you, I was wrong about everything. I wanted to feel something, anger, satisfaction, anything, but all I felt was emptiness. It's too late, Dad. Way too late." "I know," he sighed, his shoulders slumping. "I just hope someday you can forgive me." As he turned to leave, I called out, "Dad," he paused, looking back. "I don't hate you. I don't need your approval anymore." The months that followed were grueling but rewarding. We managed to save the company, rebuilding it on a foundation of honesty and hard work. Mom and I grew closer, both of us healing from years of deception. Dad faced multiple lawsuits and lost most of his assets in the divorce. Last I heard, John was struggling to find work, his reputation in tatters. Tonight, I'm meeting Susan and Mike for drinks. As we chat and laugh, I can't help but reflect on the wild journey that brought me here. It wasn't easy, and God knows it wasn't pretty. But for the first time in my life, I feel free from the need to prove myself, free from the shadow of my father's expectations. I raise my glass to honesty, hard work, and writing our own stories. Would you have exposed John's fraud, knowing it could destroy your family? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.